Hi, welcome back to my platform. So, on our last video, I had mentioned that we will be talking about helping people get out of poverty. I mean, changing their financial situation. Sorry about that. So, we had three classes of people, which we all know, and we ignore it. We kind of think we don't know. We had the rich, we had the middle class, and the poor. So we are going to talk about getting, if you're a very, very poor guy, or you're in the third class, which is the poor, we will try and get you out of poverty. But before I do that, I like to really ask you, I mean, do you actually know what it means to be poor? You know, are you poor? Do you know what it means to be poor? You know, some people just say, oh, I'm poor, I'm poor. They don't know what it means to be poor. The reason they don't know what it means to be poor is because they don't know their financial situation. They have not really analyzed themselves to really think, to really figure out that, okay, I'm very, very poor. You know, if you look at it critically, a lot of people that say that they are poor, they're not really poor because they just live life. They don't have an account of what they're doing, especially when it comes to spending money. They're just living life. That's just it. So let me tell you something about being poor. So when you're poor, it means that you do not have the ability to sustain, you understand, the basic necessities of life, which are food, clothing, shelter. Okay? Food, shelter, clothing. I can add medical and transportation because depending on where you are, if you're in the cities and you're in a situation whereby you're not well, you're not sick, it becomes a necessity for life. Some people actually go through their life with some kind of medical condition, so it puts them in that situation whereby medical and transportation is actually very, very necessary. You know, so if you're not in this category, you're not really poor. You don't really think that you're poor, but I like you to go and check. I just like you to go and sit. You have to sit down and say, hey, do I have enough food? Do I have a place to live that nobody is gonna kick me out every month? Do I have clothes to wear? You know, those three things are the basic ones for people who are healthy and people who, you know, who are just around, you know. And then transportation, as I said, depends where you live. If you live in the village, that's not your problem, you know. In the village, you have a house, you have food, you have clothes. But the only thing you have, the only transportation you need is if you want to go to the cities. But if you live in the village, you know, you're good. Village people are actually rich to my standard. I think, you know, if you're in the village, you're actually well-to-do. The problem is now when you come to the cities. If you come to Lagos, for example, if you come to Lagos and you don't have these three things, you're in trouble because Lagos will eat you alive. So now, in this situation now, what do? You know, so when you don't have these three, you know, when you cannot sustain these basic necessities of life, what can you do? Okay, now, personally, what you need to do, in my own perspective, what you need to do is you need to sit down and analyze yourself. What can I offer? What is my ability? What do I have that I can go out there and sell? What can I really, what have I learned? Everybody went to school and learned something, you understand? So you have to figure out that, you have to figure out how to use whatever you went to school and you learned, you know. If you went to school and you learned some crappy subject like history, literature, and I mean, those ones, they don't have any use in Africa, actually, to be frank with you. I mean, literature actually does, because you can become a movie star, an Hollywood star, and start making money. But something like history, geography, what are you using that to do? So you have to be careful what your abilities are. Those are the things that you learn in school, but within you have something that you know how to do that you didn't even learn from school. You know, probably you probably learn from the neighborhood. You have to add those. You understand? Because what happens is that when you come with those abilities, they are going to allow you to get going. To somebody's going to hire you based on what you can sell them. You know, when you go to look for a job, I mean, they're looking at what you can do. What can you offer the company that is going to help the company make money? Those are part of your abilities, you know. And then if you don't get the job, because you're going to be competing with a lot of people, if you don't get the job, guess what? You have to come back to the neighborhood and say, hey, how can I use these abilities to actually figure out myself? I mean, how you're getting me? So, I mean, so that's what you need to be thinking. You have to change your mindset. You don't just need to be counting on that job. So if the job is not there, what am I going to do? You have to start thinking of what you're going to use, what you already have. You understand? So now, what I will tell you is, if you find yourself in that situation whereby you don't have a job, nobody's giving you a job, but you have some abilities, you have a trait, you have learned something, you know, from the neighborhood, or somebody has taught you something that you can use to make money. Capitalize on that. How do you capitalize on that? The first thing, and I'm going to tell you this is very important. If you really want to move ahead, humility, you have to humble yourself. You have to be really nice. Your attitude, you have to bring yourself down to a level of whereby you're smiling with everybody, you're nice to everybody. You cannot understand what niceness can do to you, you know. So when you are nice to people, people are going to be attracted. You attract people to you, and you don't even know who you're going to attract to you. Just be nice, period. You know your surroundings. You have to know where you live. You have to know your neighbor. And then guess what? You need to tell your neighbor what you do or what you know. And then you also have to tell your neighbor, you also have to know what your neighbor is into. If you are into computers and you don't tell your neighbor that you're into computers, how do you think your neighbor will buy a computer from you? When you tell your neighbor that you're into computers, and your neighbor tells you that, oh boy, I'm into shipping, or I'm a teacher, guess what? Teachers need computers. So that way now, you're kind of doing you're kind of trading. You have to go out there and sell your talent, sell your abilities, your God-given abilities. You have to sell them. God gave it to you to sell them, And then the next thing you have to do now is become part of a group. You want to become part of a church? That's on you. You want to become part, but make sure that in that group, network with some people that you feel, they're rich people everywhere. You just, and tell them what you do. Also tell them how you can help them, if you know how you can help them. Listen to their story and then tell them your own story. Okay? So if you start doing these little things, it's gonna start changing the way you operate. And focus on yourself, because look, when you're poor, when you're in a situation where you're poor, sometimes you need to focus on what you're doing and be very, very disciplined about it, and be determined. If you're determined and disciplined, trust me, you can never fail. focus, determination, and discipline, you can never fail. Yeah. So the other things you can do, you know, friends. You have friends. I mean, I can bet you that you have friends that don't even know what you do. Talk to them. Tell them what you do. Tell them to tell their friends. You know, it's kind of like, a ripping effect. I tell you what I do. I tell you to tell your friend. I tell your friend to tell your friend. By the time you know it, business is coming your way. You know, and if you're working a job, you know, I always say, business is not for everybody. Some people just like to work. You understand? If you're working a job and you're good at what you're doing, now that's when you have to manage your resources very, very tight. Because if you're working a job and you're getting an income that cannot sustain you, your basic necessities, it becomes very challenging for you. Okay? So I hope this would shed some light on how to start getting out of this poverty thing. So but you have to analyze yourself, you know, because a lot of people are saying, I'm poor. No. You're not poor. You're just mismanaging what you have, your resources. You're just mismanaging what you have, something, and you're just mismanaging it. You just have to sit down and manage everything. And on my next video, we'll start talking about how to manage those things, you know. So now, this is a weekend. I want you to sit down, think of what I just said. Think of your abilities, think of how you can sell them, and then on our next video, I'm going to tell you how we can manage them and start making money for ourselves and start sustaining our basic necessities. All right. Now, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Those that have subscribed, I really, really appreciate you guys. You know, this is how we're going to grow. You know, if this information is very important to you, please just subscribe and like. You know, my goal is not to come here and make money, but hey, it's to educate, is to put the information out there. My goal is not to my goal is to make sure that I'm telling you something that can help you. That's why I want you to follow me, because the only thing I'll tell you is something that can help you. Okay, so subscribe, like, push a comment into the comment section. Let me know. I mean, as I said, I want ideas, guys. I want ideas. Let's do this together. You know, let's make money together. You know, so I mean, when we meet or wherever we meet, we'll be drinking that drink and eating that food and laughing to the bank, cashing out. Okay. Again, have a wonderful weekend. May God bless you. May God bless your family. And I will see you on my next video. This one is a little bit shorter, but I hope my message was clear. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Ciao.